All right, let's dive into today's deep dive, the evidence on discrepant events, a cognitive deep dive for educators.
So, what if the secret to capturing student attention isn't more content, but a single, powerful moment of cognitive conflict? Welcome back to Simplified Teaching, where we demystify pedagogy. Today, we're diving deep into the peer-reviewed evidence on discrepant events. Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the foundational idea, then get into the cognitive science that makes it all tick. After that, we'll look at a more modern application before we see where the research collides. And of course, we'll wrap up with your 3 key takeaways and 3 things you can actually do in your classroom this week. All right, first things first. Let's dig into the foundational idea. We need to answer the big question, what is a discrepant event when we're talking about teaching? Okay, our journey starts way back in 1990 with a paper by Zielinski and Sarachin. And really, this paper sets the stage for everything. Their core idea? That if you show students something that totally goes against what they expect, a real, wait, what moment, and then you hit them with some smart questions, you can seriously kickstart their critical thinking. But, and you knew there was a but coming, right? Look at the methodology. This is a conceptual framework. It's a guide, an activity book. It's not a controlled study. And that's its biggest limitation. It gives us the how, but it doesn't give us any hard data that this actually improves learning. That's why we're giving it a 3 out of 5 for impact. It's foundational, for sure, but it leaves a lot of questions on the table. So that first paper gave us the what and the how, but it kind of left us hanging on the why. I mean, why do our brains get so hooked by surprise? To figure that out, we've got to step out of the classroom for a second and into the cognitive science lab. Let's look under the hood at the cognitive engine that powers this whole thing. And this is where it gets really cool. A 2011 study by Newman Ma and his team. This is the missing piece of the puzzle. They found that our attentional system is literally hardwired to notice things that are out of place. We have a built-in bias to spot discrepant targets, and fast. Basically, we can't help but notice what doesn't belong. Now, here's the limitation, and for us teachers, this is a big one. It was a lab study. They used pictures of food, not complex academic concepts. So making the leap from, hey, there's a donut, to a student understanding a complex idea in chemistry, well, that's an inference we have to make. Still, this study is huge. We're giving it a 4 out of 5 for impact because it gives us a powerful biological why for this whole strategy. And the experiment itself? So simple, it's brilliant. They showed people a bunch of similar pictures, like tools, but had one picture of food in there. Using eye tracking, they measured how fast people found the food. The result? Bam, their eyes went right to it almost instantly. It's a perfect demonstration of that attentional bias. Our brains are just built to find the thing that's different. Okay, so we've got the teaching idea from 1990, we've got the brain science from 2011, so where does that leave us now? Let's check out a more recent study to see if this idea is still relevant. Is this something that's being reinforced in the modern conversation about teaching? And yeah, it turns out it is. This 2010 paper from McCollister and Saylor reinforces the whole concept. They found that for gifted learners, things like novelty, intellectual challenges, and, you guessed it, discrepant events are super effective for grabbing their attention. But are you starting to see the pattern here? The methodology is another conceptual review, and its major limitation is that it's only looking at gifted kids. So just like that first paper, it's telling us what to do, but it's not giving us that hard causal data. That's why it also gets a 3 out of 5. It's great reinforcement, but it's not the empirical proof we're looking for. Okay, we've laid out the pieces, we've got the education theory, we've got the cognitive science. Now it's time for the main event, the data war. Let's pit this research against itself and see where it lines up, and where the cracks start to show. So where's the common ground? Well, it's actually pretty solid. All 3 studies, even though they're from different fields and decades, all scream the same thing. Surprise works. Unexpected, novel events are absolute magnets for attention. No debate there. The collision point is in the type of evidence they provide. The education papers give us the what, the practical stuff you can do in a classroom, but they're missing the why. Meanwhile, the psychology paper gives us this incredible, solid why, that attentional bias, but it's so far removed from a real classroom it feels like it's on a different planet. And that gap between the lab and the classroom, that's where we find the real holes in the research. For one, where are the controlled studies in actual classrooms? We need to know, does using a discrepant event actually lead to better test scores compared to teaching normally? We think it does, but these papers don't prove it. And that link between spotting a picture of a cookie and correcting a misconception about physics? It's a leap, a big one. It's an assumption, not a proven fact. And that's the real tension here, isn't it? The teaching advice is based on solid theory, but it lacks the numbers to back it up. And the hard science has the numbers, but it's not really about teaching. So wow, we've gone from teaching theory to brain science to the gaps where they don't quite meet. So what are you supposed to do with all this? Let's boil it all down. Here are your 3 key takeaways. Number 1, discrepancy commands attention. Simple as that. This isn't some fluffy pedagogical idea. The science is pretty clear on this one. Our brains are literally built to notice things that break the pattern. So when you create a discrepant event, you're not just doing a fun activity. You are hacking your students' cognitive wiring to get them to focus. Takeaway number 2, and please remember this one. It's a tool, not a toy. The wow moment is not the point. It's just the bait. The real magic, the real learning, happens in the confusion that follows. That feeling of, wait, that's not right. That's cognitive dissonance. That's what forces the brain to start asking questions. And that is the beginning of real learning. And finally, number 3, the why elevates the how. Look, anyone can follow a recipe to do a cool demo. But when you understand the cognitive science behind it, when you know why it's hijacking their attention, you go from being a performer to being a learning architect. Understanding the why lets you design these moments with purpose, making them way more effective. All right, so much for theory. How do we make this real? Let's get practical. Here are 3 things you can try in your classroom this week. Okay, action point 1, find a misconception. Just look at your lesson plans for next week and pinpoint one thing that students always get wrong. Got it? Good. Step 2, design a surprise. And listen, this does not have to be a big production. It could be a shocking statistic, a simple demo with a weird result, anything that directly contradicts what they think they know. And then step 3, the most important part, frame it with questions. Don't you dare give them the answer. Start with, okay, everyone, what do you think is going to happen? And after it happens, your only follow-up should be, so why did our prediction fail? Let them do the heavy lifting. Because at the end of the day, that's the whole point. The most powerful learning moments don't start with an answer. They start with a puzzle. When you use these events, you're changing the game from listen to me talk to let's solve this mystery together. You're turning your students into detectives, and that is a game changer. To ensure you keep receiving these research-driven pedagogy breakdowns, simply like this video and hit subscribe to Simplified Teaching right now. The next analysis drops next week. You won't want to miss it. P.S. Want to support our work? Relevant resources and affiliate links are in the description below. See you next week.